Well, thank you for attending this session. I know it's one of the on-demand ones being offered this year at the DLC for Region 6, July 2020. So thank you for attending. This one is specifically covering using Twitter to teach data analysis. And I will show you two ways, what I call the basic way and the more advanced ways of using the Twitter, and I'll cover some different things about Twitter and how to look at it and how you want to analyze it, etc. All right, so a little bit about myself. Sorry, pardon. My mother, two young women, 23 and 21, proud Huntsville ISD students here. I have 26 or 27, I might be going to 27 years. I'd stop and think. I think this year, this is year 26. God, when you've been in it after the first 5-10 years, it changes up. 20 years, 26 years in teaching, Thrive. I love it, love it, love it. I get called the student whisperer. I get to talk to kids. I love to be called. I'm a mentor, advisor, cheerleader, CT. If it's crazy, it's CT. I love it. I'm e-learning Jedi. Wow, if you haven't figured, I have a sense of humor and I have a thing for Yoda. Gaga for Google. Oh my God, I love my Google. I love my Microsoft too, but I love my Google. I was one of those early adopters, anyways. I pay for the extra memory year because I love it. I'm a recovering shop teacher. I have taught grades 6 through seniors in college. And yes, I have taught everything from wood shop, metal shop, to advanced engineering design with students working with engineers with NASA and having things that's up to the ISS station, and architectural design and graphic design. And yeah, I've taught a lot of different things. Ed techie, I love my educational technology. Wouldn't be here if I didn't. And a volunteer addict. I love helping people. It's just, I love helping and doing things. I kind of joke that if it involves working with others, if it involves working in CTE, if it involves STEM, STEAM, educational technology, find me there. You will. I just like it. It's fun. I like doing these types of things. So for me, this is actually fun. I like doing this. Just wish we were face to face. So most of you by now know about social media and the importance and its high use that they're going through. We're specifically using Twitter because it's got some very well established. It's been around for quite a while. I was again one of those early adopters of Twitter, but I'm not very prolific on Twitter. I do have one, Techno Toolshed. I joined it a long time ago. Normally when I do post, it's when I'm at a conference and I've learned something that's important, but I don't spend as much time in it as a lot of other people that I know. Probably will once I finish this PhD. I'll probably spend more time in it, but it's very important. And why should we analyze it? It will be simply because you're finding that just in those 10 years, look at the massive jump of what's happened in social media. So we've seen the huge rise from, I remember MySpace, yes, and then Facebook, yes, and then it was Twitter, yes, then it was Instagram, and then also arguably, well, now Snapchat probably, right? So as we go, we see huge, massive percentage of uses from just in a 10 years experience. So just imagine what it's going to be previously. Social media is where a lot of people go to get their information from nowadays. We know this. So we kind of need to teach our students how to use it and how to use it responsibly. So I did do this, part of my research PhD studies one summer. I did decide to break down and look and see. And according to the percentages among U.S. adults, how's it changed just in the essentially last 6 years? And you're going to see percentage changes. Surprisingly, yes, Facebook is still, a lot of students like to say no, it's not. Facebook is still very popular. Believe it or not, Pinterest, that was one that surprised me. I never thought about it as a social media platform, but it is. Of course, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, it's more the professional, Facebook social. And Snapchat's really only started, and YouTube has only really started to be used in a social media platform. I really, really, really expect to see massive changes just from looking at things in the Snapchat and the YouTube, just simply because look at the Instagram and its percentage increase. And a lot of that has to do with Instagram is, again, it's also photo-based. Usually it's a kind of image-based, right? And we all know an image says 1,000 words, but the problem is then you have to be the person that infers what the words are saying or what they're trying to say. So it's going to be very interesting, and we just have to teach our students how to look at the social media, how to look at different things and what we're using. Okay, so I use Twitter for social media for its qualitative purposes. So essentially Twitter is a text and a public blog, so it's public It's public, open source. You can use it. You don't have to worry about violating anybody's privacy because they've posted it to be used. So it's a public microblogging. So it's a perfect platform for you to use to go through. Again, depending on your age level, your students, you have to be a little more cautious. You might need to look at some things, but again, it's there. In 2017, there were 50 million tweets sent every day. That's like 6,000 a second. So just think about how much communication, how much information is being shared that is out there, that it's in a text format that you can easily get a hold of, so that you can teach students how to look at it and how to analyze it and how to look for trends and see what's really going on. Teach them how to think. Teach them not to be just consumers of Twitter and the social media, but how to actually use it and research and look things up. So, having said that, you have to be careful about bots. What the heck are bots? Okay, bots are essentially computer programming that has been written that uses the Twitter platform, and it's not just in Twitter. You will see them on Facebook, Instagram. I've heard about them in Snapchat. Don't know how they do it, but hey, there's people out there that are smarter than me. YouTube, there's social media is big business right now. It is the now advertiser of of what we're doing. We are getting so much information is on social media, and it's provided out there. And there are people who write programs and do nothing, and you know them as influencers who do nothing but tweet and post different things, and then people follow them. The problem is you have to be careful and verify whom those are. So there are accounts that have just been created purely for bots. People will go in and make 20, 30, whatever accounts in a day, or just recently, and they will use it to retweet and favorite to get their post or something that they've created, or somebody that they're working for that they've been asked to move it up. If you'll go and look and study, you can have students actually look it up. You can pay to have people work and do this for Twitter. There's people that pay for Instagram posts to go up. So you have to be very careful, and you have to teach students how to look at the data and what they retrieve and look for really true accurate. So you want to look at that. I always tell my students, and when I'm using it, never use a retweet. Always use an original tweet. It might be a little time consuming on pulling data out once we do get to it, but it's going to give you a more accurate reflection of a true issue that's going on. Look for those original posts. I also make sure that I do this, and I tell students to do this. Look for lists. Lists have been started to be used and been using for the past couple of years. If somebody has been curated and added to a list, that means that typically that person is actually considered reliable by those people. And so I look for a 20 list minimum whenever I use the data for qualitative, and I tell my students the same thing. And if they're not going to look for just something quickly like number of lists are on, then you need to teach them, hey, we need to actually look at this post. Let's go back and look at the original poster. Let's verify that this is an actual person posting this and not a bot. So you're teaching them to dig a little deeper and a little deeper analysis going on. So you have to be careful. And again, bots are not just on Twitter. They're on all the different social media platforms. Students need to start looking deep and figuring out what is and what doesn't work. Okay? All right, so just how the heck do we use Twitter to do research? So number one is you got to consider whatever your subject's going to be that you're covering, and if there's a hashtag used for it. So you look for those different things. The hashtag is simply the pound sign followed by, probably for this conference, probably be DLC 2020 or DLC 6 2020. So you look for specific hashtags. Hashtags allow, it's a programming language that allows you to easily search for a specific subject matter. So believe it or not, when you use that hashtag and you're tagging it with that metadata and you look for that, you're actually doing basic data search using the hashtag. The only problem is you don't know if it's legit or not. So that's where we get into a couple other options. Now there's two basic options that I consider it. I have my students actually go in, and I've had students have decided they wanted to do it for Instagram or they wanted to do it for Snapchat, different things and public ones that going on. But that's fine. You want to look, but they have to pull it out. So they have to go in and go to the social media, in this case Twitter. So they go into Twitter, they search for that hashtag, and it'll pull up all those tweets. And then they copy those tweets manually, paste them into a word processing document. Then they have to go through and code and look for and see what's important. And then they get what's the most important word. So we're teaching them basic qualitative data analysis, going through and looking for those themes, looking for different things that are going in. Once they've gone through for coding by hand and they've gone through it and they pulled it out and they pulled it in when it's nice and clean, then they find what is that important text that's there from those tweets. And this is all purely by them pulling. And then they're going to have to go read the tweet. They're going to have to look at who did the tweeting of it to verify that it's legitimate. This might be something you might want to team them up in teams of 2, perhaps. You might want to make sure that you stick them to, let's say, 20 tweets a max or whatever it is that you're looking for. But have them do that and then create a word cloud from it. So they take those tweets, it's going to have all that text and information, and they put it into a word cloud. When you put it into a word cloud, that word cloud automatically generates largest what are the most important or the most often used words and or themes. So it's super great for quick qualitative analysis if you're looking for just a basic theme. That's actually one of my favorite things even to still do now. I still do it when I am doing research on something qualitative. Once I get that everything coded, be it an interview, whatever, I'll pull it out and code it, and I will put it into a word cloud. And I use that word cloud to help give me a visual of it. Now there's a more advanced method that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you how to go pull it, that allows you where you go in and you can actually pull up to 100 lines of, it pulls it into Excel software, and it's a lot of data, and it's a free website. It allows you to go pull 100 lines of a hashtag data, and then it pulls it in so that you can sort it in your Excel. You can pull it into Google, whatever you're using, your Google Sheets, and you can sort it and you get lots of text. And you can really teach your students how to easily go in there and sort and look for things and clean up the data and get it in there so that they can look for things to do and look for void. Now I want to show you an example of the basic Wordles. Then I'll show you how to make a Wordle real quick. They're not hard. Show you how I pull the information. Actually, I'm going to use it from the advanced, and then we'll just go from there. And then the advanced tool using the BirdCube. All right, so here's a quick example. So here was a quick list that I just did with COVID in school, because obviously that's a massive issue going on right now. But I didn't cull it for any that might be retweets or that might have been proven and having more than 20 or more lists, so that I would know that they have some legitimacy, that this is an actual person. So it's more likely to be an actual person than a bot, kind of thing. I didn't do that. This is just purely from pulling this out of Twitter. This is what I got. Now, when I go and clean it up, like I said, when I go and clean it up and look for things, this is now what I get. And this is kind of what I was expecting. So let's look at the 2 images. Like, there's a lot more in there, and you see a lot more different things, and there's, all these different all going on. And then you get really, really in. So, we can look here and we see, yeah, well, COVID in school, big surprise, kind of knew that. Fall, plan, those are the huge main themes. Like, what is the plan? What's going on? How we're going to do things? What's, and then you can start looking at different things. What's going on for, the kids? What's going on with our athletics? People are really worried about those athletics and those extracurricular activities. What administrators are going to do. All those kind of different things that are in there. So this is a good, quick way of doing it. Maybe you want to teach your students both ways. I don't know. But this is an excellent way to give you an idea. Now, I spent all, and I do mean all, of like a whole month last June trying to figure out how to scrape data and how to scrape it properly. And there are people that can do that, and they're super smart. But I wanted a way that would just work. And I wanted it to be something that I knew would work with students. I literally spent the past of May and all of June 13 until I found correct, or I found, I'm going to say the correct, I can't call it correct, but the best way that I found to easily get data and pull it out of Twitter. And so I found this site called BirdIQ Twitter Search. So when we go into it, because we're fixing to do that, we're going to go into it and pull it out into an Excel and do a little sorting and things. But I was able to go in, and I was able to identify ahead of time what those hashtags I was looking for, put those in, and I was able to pull 100 lines of data for each one of those searches. And you can see there the different searches that I used. I had 787 that I started with. That was raw text tweets. When I went in and removed the retweets, that 787 dropped down to 395. So that pulled it down, boom, half. And then I took it again and I went and looked for anything that was like for a conference that was coming up for simulation-based training. Did that. That halved it again. And then I went and looked to see and made sure that there were only 20 lists or more. Then it was down to only 119. So I went from 787 to 119. Now, if you want to see everything of what I went through, here's some examples of like what the raw data looks like, coding it, going through, cleaning up, etc. And you can go look at the whole thing that I did and everything that I found as I was going through. So you're welcome to go look through this. What I want to do is I want to show you how to use BirdIQNet real quick. I want you to show you how easy it is. So here we go. BirdIQ, where you at? Okay. So here's BirdIQ, and I'm just going to open it. So the BirdIQNet, and then let's search education and technology, and I'm going to click search. And so there's my 100 tweets. So I'm going to download the tweets to Excel. And you get something that looks like this, which this can be very overwhelming when you first get it, but don't let it overwhelm you. There's a lot of data in here, yes, that you can use, but what we're concerned about is A, getting rid of it as a retweet, then B, getting rid of it if it's not, depending on its list. Then we start looking at the data here. So the first thing I, of course, do is I'm looking for, let's go, I'm going to leave ID, see it gives you IDs and everything, usernames, retweets, etc. created. Actually, I kind of like to use the user created accounts, because the older their account is, the more likely you can probably rely on it. Like this one right here was just made recently. Not so sure about that. So it's one of those little things that we can use, but let's get rid of a couple of things here. We really don't need those columns, not for what we're doing. Columns, oops, delete the wrong thing, it's okay. But I'm just trying to clean it up to get it a little where I can go into. User listed, yes, I'm concerned about that. I'm going to leave the original post link in case I need to ever go into it for whatever reason I might decide. And then there's a lot, like there is a lot of information on here, like if you wanted to try to figure out and study where they were from, and all kinds of lovely data in here you could actually use. But I'm only going to worry about this particular for right now. So first thing I care about, and see these were all within, well, since essentially, well, that's interesting. How do we have something that is for 710 when it's only 7.9? Okay, sorry. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort if it's a retweet. So that's going to tell me right here, column G. So I want to sort by column G because it's going to give me all the retweets. And so that gives me here are all the retweets. Oh my goodness. Did I delete? I was supposed to say, no, I didn't delete it. And it should show up there. It should tell us is it retweeted or not. Okay, fine. You can also sort by column B, because it'll have all the retweets here. And that's at the point where I would look and I would go through and delete if I can change this if I wanted to, but unless for right now I'm not going to mess with that. But it allows you to look and see what's a retweet, what's not a retweet, the ats or responses, etc., with the time that it was done, favorited, user listed is what really is important, and also user followers. Not necessarily how many they're following. Well, following could kind of be, you can look at it, but if they have, the more followers they have, the more likely they are to be somebody in that particular area that's considered to be of importance. But there's your user listed count. So I would not, at least for this case, I wouldn't use anything that didn't have 10 or more. So just to show you what it kind of looks like, I'm going to highlight all this, and I'm going to go pick one of the Wordles. And so let's just go pick Monkey Learn. And I'm going to paste, and I generate the cloud. So here's the cloud, educational technology teacher. So, oh, that's not surprising. Okay, but let's see what happens if I go back into that Excel, and I'm going to, oops, hello. Pulled the right one, so apologize if it's a retweet. So I'm literally looking for retweet. Okay, and now I'm going to sort because I want to know if they're of those lovely not user count in, so it would be N. And see, they're not on a user count. If they're not on at least 10 user counts, I'm not going to use them. So I'm going to get rid of those. So I went down from 100 to 25, which is about right, because you want to make sure that you're getting the most accurate data we possibly can. And like, these have been favorited, so those are probably the really good ones that we should probably be looking at, following, maybe get some information from. So let's try this again. And then you get a little more information, educational technology, and you start to see that a lot of these are not super big, but they're all important. Policy, future education, etc. So that's how that particularly works. Now, this is where you take it and you start teaching your students to do a little coding. So this is where they might start looking for different themes for their area. You know, this is New Jersey. You know, is it a parent? Is it a student? Is it for, against? They need to look at it and see just how for, how against they are for things. So this is where you start teaching the students to go in a little farther. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. So you would teach them to go in and look, okay, I'm going to do a coding here if it's a positive. So, and just what level of pro or con they are for it. You know, one is they're for it, 2 is neutral, 3 is they're against it. Look for those kind of things. Perhaps they are looking if it was something they wanted to see, if it was coded and posted by a student, a parent, a teacher, admin. Maybe they're looking for specific things. Maybe they want to verify. And they can start coding those different things, and they can get farther into the actual data analysis that you need them to, maybe if you want them to do the higher end data analysis. If there's an image, like this one looks like there's an image, well, they're going to have to go, and we should be able to actually pull up that. They're going to have to actually go to that and see if they can pull it up. And so when it does, it's pulling up and looks like it has to do with okay, come on. It should give us the exact address where this came from. Okay, let's go over here to email. There we go. Sorry, grab the wrong column. This one happens. The one with the image would be this one. That's why I keep the website. And so the image is showing, it looks like, so it's an image of a husband and wife, a teacher who died. So that student in that particular case, because it was an image, and if it was me, I would actually create a new column and put the image in there. And then they're going to have to go in and code that it's husband and wife, photo of husband and wife where one of them passed away from COVID. The instructor, the teacher passed away from COVID. So they may have to do some actual hand coding and looking at different things that are in there. So it really teaches the students how to look and dig a little deeper and go as in deep as you want them to go. And it's going to be up to you again. So you can stick to that simple learning how to pull and do and just make a basic word cloud, or you can take it into even higher end data analysis. Like for my students, I would teach them to go in, hey, let's look at the themes, let's see what's going on. And I would want them to do like basic pie charts. So I would want to see, basic, just where are we at? What do they think about it? I'm not going to have them do all this SVS and look and do those kind of things, but just if you wanted to see what that could look like, and if you are teaching data analysis and you are teaching this kind of stuff to students, what does it look like when it was done? All right, so now we're essentially at the end of this presentation. Normally I spend a lot of time doing answering, get to know my people, question answers, and this is not necessarily offering or providing us with that opportunity, but I wanted to make sure that you have my email. Scroll down here to the bottom, because can't do a lot of answers and questions. Sorry. You can get a hold of me. I have a website, thetechnologytoolshed.com. When you do, it takes you to my WordPress. I forget what I made it in. Or you can email me. I'm more than happy to answer questions, reach out and do a little back and forth communication and working together, because that's what this is all about. It's about us connecting and working together. Now, what you care about is what is the game code for this session. So the game code for the using Twitter to teach data analysis is, drumroll, 777653. I repeat, 777653. And I hope you've learned something, and I hope that you're able to use this in your classroom. And if you have any ideas, or you just want to reach out and talk to somebody about this and get some ideas, I'm happy to be there. It's kind of what I do for a living, being an instructional designer. Everybody always asks me what that is. It's kind of like a project manager. It's a teacher. It's learning how to look at everything. I consider it more of a coach and cheerleader than anything else. I know how to use the technology. I know how to leverage things and teach and do all that. So I help my faculty members who are experts in their content areas. They really know what they're teaching. And I help them take it and put it into the new platforms, and to put it digitally and place it into the LMS that we use, and to give it to the students in the best format possible so that students can learn and that they can teach. So they don't spend all their time trying to learn the technology. They are given tips and tricks and shown ways to use the technology to go even farther than what they could on their own, to take it to that next level, to do the different things, to do the things they've always wanted to do. So that's kind of what I do as an instructional designer. I do a lot of working with people. People think I'm just in the office. No, even work in telecommuting. I do a lot working with a lot of people. I'm here to help my faculty members. I do everything I can to help them problem solve and figure out the best way to deliver their content to their students. That's what I'm here to do. That is my job. My job is to help. And I help them do that. I am their coach, because I know they know it, but they might just need a little help on how to do things. Like, a coach helps you, like, what's your form for your weightlifting that's not right? Hey, do it this way. Have you tried it this way? It's a little easier. Oh, adjust your grip. There's little things that we can do, and that I've got a lot of experience in using in different forms of technology, education technology, that I use to help these. And so that's what I do. All right. Again, hope to hear from some of you. Have an awesome conference, and let's get this stupid COVID to go away so we can actually get together and meet, because sometimes these conferences are the only times we get to see each other. So I am going to miss getting to see some of my friends face to face, but we'll say hi virtually. All right. Have a blessed one.